In terms of Pokemon's anime, many characters are fairly flat, generally acting as well-established pillars of the show that has gone on for over 2 decades at this point. Even when the cast changes, it's usually just passing these roles from old to new. However, outside the scope of the anime's characters is the antagonist of the first Pokemon movie, the story of Mewtwo, his character arc as a clone, and his hunt for greater purpose. Hi? I think a lot of people remember this movie, so I won't have to go over the general events too much, but I think it's really interesting now that I've seen it in Japanese. The original is far more subtle, while the US release decides to shove the themes down our throats while making Mewtwo unambiguously evil. I don't know why. I mean, we were educated in the US after all. Okay, I think I get it. Not to say this is inherently bad or anything, we got some great quotes from the movie because the themes were so ham-fisted, but we also lose some of the deeper nuance as the US release seeks to over-explain things that are better left ambiguous. I'm looking at you, Pokemon tears. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of the magic Pokemon tears. I'm more so a fan of the good old everyday sobbing that I do myself. To start dissecting Mewtwo as a character, we have to start at his adolescence, in the prologue to this movie. Originally, this is a radio drama that was then animated after the Japanese theatrical release, but was animated before the US theatrical release. So you may be wondering, why was this crucial backstory for the titular character excluded from the US release in theaters? Yeah, while 4Kids were really important in bringing anime to the West, it was definitely at a cost. That's a whole nother topic though, so let's get on with Mewtwo's origin. The first words we hear from Mewtwo are "Koko wa doko? Boku wa dare?" Questions the character will ponder for the rest of the film. Being a DNA-manipulated clone of Mew, his existence is inherently unnatural. Thus, his purpose in the world isn't something he can learn through existence in itself. This perfectly sets up the internal conflict and struggle he will have throughout the rest of this story. After he awakens inside his own mind, he can hear the voices of the human scientists all around him. They question why Mewtwo won't open his eyes yet. Other clones have, so why is he so different? One scientist even blatantly says, perhaps he needs something else to be born. The thing he longs for is what he requires for true birth into this world, purpose and understanding of what he is. These are things that the scientists can't give him, which leads us to Ai, also known as Amber in the dub. Ai's innocence and purity help to elicit compassion and emotion from Mewtwo, as the mind of a child is not corrupted by the supposed truths that humans live by as adults. For example, when Mewtwo questions what she is and what he is, she proclaims that she's a human, and that since Mewtwo can talk, he might be a human as well. Or the opposite could be true, and she might be a Pokemon. These details are irrelevant to her. It doesn't matter if you're a human, a Pokemon, or a clone. You are alive, and all life has value. What's being shown here is Mewtwo's true nature. Should his inquisitive mind be met with guidance and sincerity, then he has no reason to lash out. Should it be met with deceit and ill intent, well, we'll get to that. The point of Ai, a character Mewtwo will forget before the main section of the movie even begins, is to show that Mewtwo's intentions are pure in essence. The desire to know who and what he is, the obsession with his purpose in having life are desires that humans have had for centuries. This just shows how Ai was correct. There's not enough of a difference between Pokemon and humans that we should so quickly treat one another as better than the other. This is made even more clear in Ai's final moments. As Mewtwo had befriended Ai through telepathy, so too were Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle clones brought in and befriended. Ai tells them that they are all clones, but that doesn't mean they are any less than their originals. She imparts on them knowledge of the real world, but after that, the clones start to fail. First Charmander, then Squirtle and Bulbasaur. The life granted by humans through cloning was extinguished just as quickly. Mewtwo and I remain, but not for long, as even I begins to fade away. Before I passes on with the other clones, she sees Mewtwo cry for her departure. She tells him that only humans can cry in sorrow instead of just physical pain, a testament to Mewtwo's value in life being just as much as any humans. Unfortunately, these emotions overwhelm Mewtwo, and his psychic powers begin to leak out, affecting the real world outside his mind. You could argue that emotionally distressed and having learned to some degree his own value, that Mewtwo was ready to wake up, ready to be born. However, his psychic powers are too great, so the scientists are forced to sedate him, halting that birth and causing him to forget I. Great, he forgot her, so there was no point to all of this? Well, not exactly. Like I said, the point of this prologue is to show that Mewtwo isn't inherently malicious. He's curious and naive, so it entirely depends on the intentions of the first person he meets, which brings us to the part of the movie that most people are familiar with: Mewtwo fully grown. To really show Mewtwo has forgotten everything, we start where we last began. 2 phrases. Where am I? Who am I? Notably though, Mewtwo isn't in a void with no substance, he's in what he calls a dream of this world without memories. A dream of this world with no memories? What the hell does that even mean? I thought this was a kid's movie! This is entirely my interpretation, but it seems like Mewtwo is dreaming of a real place that Mew is from. Perhaps some shared memory or something even more. The underwater section makes me think of a metaphorical birth for Mewtwo, his life coming into existence in the real world, while this memory-like dream is a visual representation of that birth. Mewtwo saying he'll never forget this world is the exact reason why he heads there with the clones and Mew at the end of the movie. The end of this movie is another birth for Mewtwo, something we'll get to in due time. As Mewtwo awakens, he repeats the questions that have continued to plague him this whole time. Where am I? Who am I? Repeated ad nauseum to elicit how these questions will not stop haunting him. Mewtwo even says that he hasn't been born yet, as he's still in the cloning tank, a literal representation of the womb. When he breaks out, he has been truly born into this world. That's when Mewtwo has his conversation with Dr. Fuji, the man who created him and the father of his forgotten friend, I. Their conversation isn't the same as the one had with I, though. While I gave Mewtwo a vagueness that shows things are not so clear-cut, Dr. Fuji is far more rugged in his stances. He tells Mewtwo his name. He tells Mewtwo that he's a Pokemon. He tells Mewtwo that he's just a clone. And he tells Mewtwo he's the creation of man, not God. This immediately sets up Mewtwo as lesser to humans, a purpose he does not accept. So, while the scientists congratulate themselves, Mewtwo seeks answers to the questions that still plague his existence. Who am I? Where am I? And now, why was I born? So with these questions on his mind, and the scientists seemingly incapable of giving him a cohesive answer, treating him as a trophy rather than a true life form of equal value, he destroys the lab, as far as we know, killing everyone within it. Dreams with no memories, dead daughters, slaughtering scientists by the dozen. Is this really a Pokemon movie? It's crazy to think that it is, and honestly, it stays at this level for the rest of the film. Mewtwo stands in the ruins of the lab that birthed him for malicious intent. That's when the true ringleader behind Mewtwo's creation swoops in, Giovanni. This truly shows Mewtwo's naivety as well. As Giovanni presents Mewtwo information, he accepts it without question, even asking Giovanni what he should do. At this point, despite having intelligence, Mewtwo lacks wisdom and experience. His outburst against the scientists was childish, but as a being that was just born into the world, that should to some degree be expected. So it's even more expected that he'd be so easily manipulated. However, this manipulation cannot last, as Giovanni doesn't grant Mewtwo the answers he seeks. World domination and strength being above all else is fine, and they are goals that stick with Mewtwo beyond this point, but to Mewtwo, that doesn't really answer his greater hunt for purpose. So, as much as Giovanni thought Mewtwo was his to control, he was wrong. In Giovanni's arrogance, he tells Mewtwo that his purpose as a Pokemon is to be used for humans, to live for humans. When Mewtwo questions this, the reason he killed the scientists resurfaces. You were created by humans. What other value do you have? This pushes Mewtwo towards a twisted answer to one of his questions. While I told him that whether he is human or Pokemon is irrelevant, Mewtwo concludes that he is neither human nor Pokemon. Then, he destroys the Team Rocket base he was being contained in. I think Mewtwo's body count is in the dozens at this point. After this, Mewtwo returns to the island where he was born, standing once again in the ruins of the laboratory that he destroyed. He envisions the place from his dream without memories, symbolizing his second birth. This is where he proclaims that he rejects the people who granted him life. He rejects their purpose they push onto him. He does not proclaim to attack or to start a war. He simply strikes back at the people responsible for granting him this cursed existence, plagued with questions he may never truly answer. I'm pretty sure, might be wrong about this one, that killing a few dozen people counts as an attack. The next time we see Mewtwo, he's rebuilt the lab on New Island and invited Pokemon trainers from around the world to battle him. He brings the trainers to him by proclaiming himself to be the world's strongest Pokemon trainer. And I guess he's right. The world's strongest trainer and the world's strongest Pokemon at the same time. At this point, Mewtwo is clearly striking back against humanity in full force. The storm he creates is presumed to have taken the lives of trainers who did not make it to New Island. He throws people around with his psychic powers and is willing to mind control humans to garner himself knowledge he does not have. His justification? Humans would do exactly as he has done if they could. This is what Giovanni and Dr. Fuji have caused in their arrogance. They made a being with untold power, then spit on its innocence, assuming themselves as humans to be its superior inherently. This is where Mewtwo comes to his ultimate conclusion: destroy the world and start it anew. No humans corrupt and malicious, no Pokemon living only for humans and accepting servitude, a world for only the new Pokemon clones created and led by Mewtwo, a perfect world that will no longer have such a power imbalance and unfairness. When Pikachu tries to claim otherwise, that partnership is the foundation of the human-Pokemon relationship, Mewtwo rejects this entirely. Only the weak rely on humans as partners. The strong, like himself, can do perfectly fine in isolation from them entirely. The strong are fit to rule the world. Is that Giovanni talking or Mewtwo? This is around the point where Mew enters the picture. In the face of his predecessor, the being he is an altered copy of, Mewtwo feels the need to validate his own existence. With Mew alive, Mewtwo would always be seen as a copy, a fake. His value is diminished by Mew's existence, so should he hope to truly become his own being with his own value, then he needs to kill Mew. He could have just changed his name to Clarence or something. Murder is not the first option to disassociate with somebody. So the battle between Mew and Mewtwo begins, and with it, the battle between the clones and their originals. Now, I want to be clear here. The dub butchers Mew as a character. Mewtwo isn't the only one learning a lesson in this movie. Mew is as well. While the dub has Mew spout some nonsense about value derived from the heart, making him this all-encompassing good guy, the original has Mew say that the real ones are real no matter what, as in the clones will never be real. They will always be copies, fakes. This more handedly explains why the battle between the originals and the clones is so heated. What a lot of people seem to miss here, despite even the dub making it super clear, is that these battles are more brutal than normal Pokemon battles. Each side isn't fighting to knock out their opponent in a fun little sport, They're fighting to validate their own existence as superior to the other. The winner will kill the loser. By being the last one standing, you prove you are real. It's actually only the human characters on the sidelines, Pikachu and Meowth, that understand the actual truth of the situation. Originals or clones, Pokemon are human. Regardless of what they are still alive. As I said to Mewtwo so long ago, it doesn't matter what you are, so long as you're alive. The viewpoint of an innocent child is what separates Mew and Mewtwo from the conclusion they are too jaded and blind to see. I know people are sentimental and nostalgic for the heavy-handed speeches given in the English dub, but let me show you what Meowth says in the original version. It's subtle, but the message is actually exactly the same. This writing is so subtle. How is this a children's movie? This culminates, of course, with Ash, Satoshi in the original, and his sacrifice. The point of this seems to be missed by a lot of people, and honestly, I blame the dub for that. Me, blaming the dub. I guess the movie isn't the only thing with a running theme. This sacrifice is to show Ash values both Mew and Mewtwo equally as living beings, the true answer the movie has been building towards this whole time. This has nothing to do with Pokemon tears or anything else. I think the dub-only speech given by Mewtwo is beautiful, but once again, I think the original subtlety is equally moving. I feel bad not talking about the most egregious dub change in the whole movie, as it belittles what actually happens in the end. So, let's just get it over with. Maybe I shouldn't do this now that 4Kids seemingly knows my address, but I really can't hold this in any longer. The magic voodoo plot device tiers of Pokemon being so special that Pokemon are inherently more special than humans, while also over-explaining Ash's revival, completely misses and undermines the point of the original. It's literally nowhere to be found in the original. I don't know why they pulled this out of nowhere and gave characters extra dialogue that literally undermines the point of the story. Ugh. In the original, it's far, far more nuanced and paints a much more beautiful picture overall. You see, when Mewtwo cries in the beginning of the movie for the death of Ai, she tells him something extremely important that I've already mentioned. By telling Mewtwo that his tears of sorrow are something usually ascribed to humans exclusively, by showing that Mewtwo, a cloned Pokemon, and humans have something in common, is to show that the distinction between life and life is arbitrary. If you can cry, feel sorrow, happiness, anger, and fear, if you can feel these typically human emotions, then why should your life be valued any differently than someone else's? The tears reviving Ash because they're inherently special is fine enough. Over-explanation butchers the beauty of the scene and what it helps reveal to Mewtwo alongside Ash's sacrifice. All life has merit. All life has value. And so, Mewtwo treats this as his third birth. With Mew by his side, he flies away with the clone Pokemon so that they may keep on living, going to the place he has only dreamed of but has no memories of. The movie ends with him erasing everyone else's memories of what happened, solidifying the growth that occurs in this movie is solely for Mewtwo. He is the main character this time, not Ash. So, with the understanding that life is just as valuable as other life, the beautiful character arc of Mewtwo comes to a close. Thank you so very much for watching.